Can you take a tomato slice from McDonald's Burger and use it to grow a whole tomato plant? Let's find out. Back in spring, I grabbed a deluxe quarter pounder with cheese because this burger comes with tomatoes. After popping open the box, I lifted the bun to find the tomatoes and eventually found them under the patty. I picked up a slice of tomato to see if it had some good seeds in it. There were some nice seeds you can see here, so I decided to pick out 2 of them with my finger. On the seeds, there's a translucent casing that can inhibit sprouting. To remove it, I just rub the seed into a paper towel like this, and that takes it off. You can see what's left on the paper towel, and here are the seeds with the sprout inhibitor removed. They're ready to be planted. Next, I needed to get some soil and a cup to plant the seeds into. I decided to use a red Solo cup because I had one laying around. I made sure to cut slits at the bottom of the cup for drainage so the soil doesn't go bad in the cup. Now it will drain well. Then I dumped some Happy Frog soil out on a table. The soil was a bit dry right from the bag, so I added water to make the soil nice and damp throughout. This will help with germination. After mixing it all up, here's what we're left with: a damp, ideal starting mix. Next, I grabbed my Solo cup and filled it with potting mix to prep it for planting. I like to use a Sharpie to make a little hole to drop my seeds into. The seeds look great. I'll just drop these in the hole. You can see them down there. Then I'll take some soil to cover them up. And then I'll just water the seeds in. To get a better overall experiment, I wanted to sprout the seed of an additional tomato slice from a different McDonald's burger, so I grabbed another quarter pounder deluxe. For this one, I wanted to try a different method and took a slice of the tomato out of the burger. I figured this one would work. It had some nice looking seeds in it. And instead of taking the seeds out, I just took the whole slice of tomato and dropped it on the surface of the soil. Then I just covered the whole slice with a bit of soil, like you see here, and watered it all in. After my seeds were planted, I grabbed a heating mat and placed my cup on the mat. Using a heat mat is helpful because tomato seeds will germinate based on the temperature of the soil, and using that heat mat will make it so the seeds take half the time to sprout. Here are a bunch of different tomato seeds I started all on the heat mat, and I'm using a simple LED light for them. 8 days later, the tomato seeds sprouted and were looking beautiful. This is the one that I planted only 2 seeds, and both came up. And here's the cup that I planted the whole slice of tomato. The germination rate was impressive. You can still see some more seedlings sprouting. 7 days after that, the plants had grown their first true leaves and were doing really well. So I decided to go by and thin them out down to 1 plant per cup. There we go. That's a healthy, happy tomato. I did the same thing for the sliced tomato seedlings. For this one, I picked the healthiest looking seedling, then just cut out all the rest carefully with a small scissor. Here's the final seedling with plenty of space now that it's on its own. 8 days later, the plants had shown some nice growth and it was time to get them in the ground. Here's the tomato that was from the whole slice. The color and the health of the plant is perfect. For this one, I'm planting it directly into the soil. To do this, I first pulled back the wood chips with a rake until I got down to the soil level. Then grabbed my small hand shovel to dig a hole for my tomato. And I want it to be about twice the width of my cup. Next, I grabbed some of my all-purpose fertilizer and a tablespoon to measure with. Then scooped a tablespoonful of fertilizer and put a little more than half at the bottom of the hole, then mixed it in to even it out. After that, I grabbed my tomato, popped it out of the cup, and placed it in my hole and began backfilling with my natural soil. When I was almost back to the original soil height, I sprinkled in the rest of the remaining tablespoon of fertilizer, then finished backfilling and watered the plant in. After that, I added a bit more soil at the top, then pulled the wood chips back around the plant to make sure it had a nice mulch covering, and did one final watering. This was the tomato that I started from the whole tomato slice. I was pretty sure that this tomato was going to be a determinate variety, which means it puts out one big fruit set and then stops producing. For these kinds of tomatoes, it's best to support them with a tomato cage. So that's what I did. At Lowe's, they had 54-inch galvanized tomato cages. So I bought one of those and placed it around my tomato plant to help support it as it grows. Here's the tomato looking happy in its new home, and now is when the exciting part will start to happen. For my other tomato plant, I figured it would be a good idea to grow it in a container. This way I could have one plant in the ground and one plant in a pot. I grabbed a food-safe container from Lowe's and drilled some holes in the bottom for drainage. Next, I grabbed some of my homemade soil and dropped it into my bucket and filled the rest shovel by shovel. I made sure to add some fertilizer to this soil as well because my homemade soil is a basic mix and doesn't have added nutrition in it. I decided to add about 2 tablespoons to my 5-gallon bucket, then mixed it into the top few inches of the soil. Next, I grabbed my tomato. This one was looking super healthy, as you can see. I made a hole in the soil with my hand, popped out my tomato, and gently tucked it into its new home. Then watered the whole thing in. I'm hoping for some big future harvests from this one. It's been 9 days since we transplanted out this tomato. This is the one we started from tomato seed that we got out of a McDonald's cheeseburger. Overall, the plant looks healthy, it looks happy, it definitely enjoys its new home. And I think we're gonna get a good level of production out of this one in the future. I'll continue to come by, give you guys the updates, and we'll keep looking out for this tomato to make sure we get a nice harvest from it. Here is another tomato we started. This one is even further along though. It looks super healthy, looks really happy, and it even looks like in the center, it wants to start putting out some flowers. That's a great sign. I can't wait to get the production. It's gonna be pretty fun grabbing a harvest from a tomato that we actually started from seed from a McDonald's hamburger. I mean, unbelievable. And overall, this plant looks super, super happy. It's been a little bit since we checked on this tomato that we started from a cheeseburger from McDonald's. You'll notice the plant looks really healthy. It's already starting to form some flowers back here, which is exciting because that means fruit is on the way. Overall, it's got a nice color to it. It's got a nice shape. The plant looks pretty healthy, but you will notice down here, there are a few leaves that are showing some signs of disease. So what we want to do is remove those leaves. What I'm going to do is grab my pruners and I'm going to make sure I spray these with isopropyl alcohol first, just to make sure we're not spreading disease around. Then I'll take my pruners, we'll go back and we'll just remove this fan leaf down here, right here. We only want to remove these leaves. We don't want to remove any tops because this is likely a determinate tomato. I'll just make sure if I see any more of these leaves with disease problems, I'll go by and cut them out. Like this one over here, we can remove as well. So we'll just take this, cut it out to make sure we have no leaves that could be spreading diseases up the plant. A little bit of time has passed since we checked on this tomato. Incredibly healthy plant. Looks like it's going to be super productive, and it looks like it's setting up for just a massive harvest. I'm going to add this cage to support the tomato plant. I should have done it earlier, but I didn't. Now I'm gonna have to kind of live with the consequences. I'm sure I can make it work though. So we're just gonna push these things at the bottom so we don't disturb the roots too much. Push these to the outside, just like this, and then we'll just push it all the way down. And I'll make sure I'm careful with the leaves up here. As long as we take our time and we do it gently, it'll be perfectly fine. This will help support the tomato plant, just to give it a little more, something to lead onto as the fruit starts to get heavier. And the reason I'm using a cage is because this is going to be a determinate variety of tomato and we're not going to be pruning it. So this is a good way to support a tomato when you're letting it bush out just like this. Overall, was later than I should have added it, but it will work. 7 days later, the tomato in the ground was cruising along and doing its thing. More flowers were opening up every day. Some of the lower leaves had early blight on them, but the leaves higher up still looked super healthy. I went by with my cleaned pruners and removed all the leaves with disease issues. The tomato in the pot was looking wicked good as well. There were so many flowers, and even small tomatoes had formed. A few leaves had blight issues, so I went by with my cleaned pruners and removed all the lower leaves that had problems. By this point, the plant in the pot was already producing tomatoes. So I wanted to make sure it had enough nutrition to support healthy fruit development. I grabbed a 5-gallon pot, put a scoop of my homemade soil in it, then added in some of my all-purpose fertilizer and mixed it all together. Here it is with the fertilizer mixed in. Then I took my fertilized soil and added it to the bucket. This will help give the plant the food it needs to kick out a big harvest. And I made sure to water it in afterwards. I wanted to add mulch to the bucket as well to help the soil stay cool and also for it to dry out slower. I grabbed a bag of leaves that I saved from the fall, then dumped them in my backyard and went over them with my lawnmower. This dices up the leaves so they don't mat out the soil. Here are the diced up leaves, a way better mulch than whole leaves. Next, I took them and added them to the bucket until all the soil was covered with a few inches. I want to give you a quick update on what I'm calling the McDonald's tomato. Overall, this plant looks absolutely gorgeous. There's a few leaves at the bottom that have a little bit of issues, but overall the health is just really looking good. Fruit is forming, no blossom end rot, healthy looking fruit, lots of flowers. Overall, just look at the color of the leaves. The plant is doing fantastic, really happy with it, and really looking forward to how much this thing can actually produce. Here is the McDonald's tomato in a container. Over the last few days, it developed a few issues. Not anything too bad, but I can see some stuff like this. This leaf is getting some early blight issues, so I'm just gonna remove those. I'll make sure I come by and remove any of these diseased leaves so they don't spread diseases up the plant. And like this one over here, cut this one out. Overall though, the plant looks really healthy. The production is super high. The fruit looks good. It's got a lot on it and more flowers are forming. I think we're gonna get a nice level of production from this plant. It's August 1st today and the McDonald's tomato looks incredible. Look at the level of production on this thing. It's wild. Some of these tomatoes look like they're bigger than others for some reason. Overall though, the amount of fruit is incredible. I hope it starts getting some blush color to it and ripening. There's so many more flowers up here. This thing is just performing beautifully. Really happy with it overall. I mean, what a healthy, prolific plant. The McDonald's tomato in a pot is doing okay, but not as good as it was doing. And overall, I think it's because I didn't stay on top of consistently giving it enough water. We had some hot days. The bucket dried out a little bit too much and that caused some problems. One of the problems that it caused was probably dropping off some of the flowers and not many new flowers are forming. And one of the bigger problems that happened was when I missed some watering, blossom end rot happened on a round of my fruit. So some of my fruit that's about this size has blossom end rot on it, but some of my older fruit that formed earlier doesn't because I was watering better at that time. So overall, the plant looks pretty good. It's not as productive as the one I have in the ground, but it looks like we're still gonna get a decent harvest on this. Hopefully we're past the insanely hot weather and this tomato can just excel and kick out a decent amount of fruit for us. 12 days later, the tomatoes on the plant had completely swollen up, and now you can start to see truly how much fruit this one plant has. A few of the tomatoes were starting to blush and get some color, and the branches were hanging low from all the weight. The tomato in the container had some ripe fruit on it, so I went by with my pruners and cut out all the ripe tomatoes. I think this plant ripened earlier than the other one due to the stress it was under. It gave earlier fruit, but definitely has less fruit. Check out these 4 really nice looking tomatoes, but the other plant, that's the one I'm really looking forward to. It's August 27th today and the first tomatoes are ripening, as you can see, but step back a little bit and check out the unbelievable level of production on this tomato plant. Look, fruit loaded down here, move through here, starting to ripen here. In the back, swing around this way a little bit. Look how many fruits are on this one branch. Swing over here, look how just the cluster of fruits, the level of production. I mean, I expected this tomato to grow, but I did not expect this. You'll notice the plant is starting to slow down and the plant doesn't look great, but that's okay. It's not focused on producing tomatoes anymore. It's only focused on ripening. And with the nights getting cooler, these tomatoes are really starting to ripen. Today, I'll grab a harvest of all the ripe fruit, show you what that looks like, and then we'll keep coming out here and harvesting more and more as the rest ripen. It's August 27th today. The tomato looks okay, but you can see it's really on its last leg. We grabbed a few tomatoes just the other day, like 4 or so, and we have a few more to grab today. And they're relatively small, especially compared to the ones in the ground, and there's not a huge level of production. Overall though, we still did get some tomatoes, and we'll grab the rest of these today and just let some of these other ones finish up. It was such an exciting day to be able to harvest these tomatoes. the original idea 108 days later came to fruition, it was such a satisfying harvest. To go from a tomato slice in a burger to this, what a fun and rewarding transformation. Here is what I grabbed from the plant, some beautiful looking tomatoes. This is real food. These are the tomatoes that I harvested from the plant in the bucket. A lot of the tomatoes were damaged and had blossom end rot due to my improper watering practices. We harvested some tomatoes. Let's actually taste one. This looks like the perfect tomato to taste. So what we're gonna do is slice into this baby and see what it looks like. Get a sharp knife. We get one slice there. Take a peek at it. Ah, that looks pretty dang good. And then we'll get one more slice and then we'll taste it. Oh yeah, check that out. McDonald's tomato started from just a quarter pounder. Now we have a whole tomato, a host of tomatoes. Let's get our first bite and see how good it actually tastes. No acidity, sweet, but a mild sweet. The kind of tomato that you could just eat a bunch of it. Overall, impressed with the flavor. I mean, I think it's fantastic how many tomatoes we're getting out of it, but to be honest, the flavor is pretty dang good. Here's what we grabbed from the one that was grown in a pot. One thing you'll notice is a lot of these tomatoes have like blossom end rot on the bottom. They're not even that great. There's a couple of them that are good. This one's a little over. This one, blossom end rot, but look how small these are too. They're definitely smaller. Let's try this little one right here because it looks like it's a pretty good one. So we'll just take a bite of this one and see if it has a good flavor to it. Definitely still a good flavor. To be honest, this one tastes a little bit sweeter than the other one that I tasted, the one grown in the ground. That might be because it's just, you know, a little bit different of a variety, but because since these are likely hybrids, these tomatoes, that they're not going to grow true to seed. So for whatever reason, this one tastes better, even though it's put out smaller tomatoes. Overall though, tastes more like a grape tomato or a cherry tomato than a paste tomato. Pretty dang good though. 13 days later, we had a big windstorm and the plant was looking weak, which was affecting how the tomatoes were ripening. Also, the plant had so many tomatoes on it that it seemed like it was having a little difficulty ripening that much fruit at one time. I mean, I have had some plants with a lot of tomatoes on them, but never in my life have I seen a single tomato plant with this much fruit on it. I was completely blown away. I decided to harvest all the tomatoes this day and let them ripen inside. I went over to my apple tree and picked a fresh apple, then got a cardboard box, grabbed my apple and put it in the box, then added the unripe tomatoes. The apple will release ethylene gas, a natural plant hormone that will speed up the ripening process. Some of the tomatoes had issues, so I left them out and salvaged what I could from them. A few days later, a bunch of the tomatoes ripened and were ready to eat. One of my favorite parts about the whole entire process was the anticipation of finding out what kind of tomato that the seeds would grow. I thought maybe it would be a beefsteak tomato, but it ended up being aroma type. It was also funny to see that the plant in the ground was so overloaded with fruit that it had difficulty ripening all the fruit. Adding a bit more fertilizer, that could have helped, but I think the poor ripening was because I got the seed from a hybrid tomato, and it seems like the plant might have lost some of its early ripening or even ripening characteristics from the parent plant. When you grow the seeds from a hybrid tomato, the offspring doesn't grow true to seed. Often the characteristics will lean more towards one of the parents, and even within the two tomatoes that I grew, there was variation. The tomatoes in the container were much smaller and thinner, while the tomatoes from the plant in the ground were much larger and more round. In another area of the garden, I grew Roma tomatoes that I got from Lowe's, and I planted them at the same time as the McDonald's tomatoes. The harvest from them wasn't quite as large, but the fruit ripened way more evenly, and I was able to harvest a lot more fresh fruit right off the vine that was ripe. Overall, I was shocked with the level of production, and this is probably my favorite experiment that I've ever done. I mean, to be able to take a cheeseburger, grab a tomato from it, then grow a tomato plant, and then harvest pounds and pounds of tomatoes from it is just such a unique and refreshing experience. I'm just so happy with how the whole thing went. One thing I could have improved on was taking better care of the plant in the pot. As it got hotter and hotter, I didn't stay on top of watering enough. I wasn't around all the time because I was at the other homestead getting some work done. But when it starts to get super hot out and you've got a plant that is like that large on the hot days, it transpires so much and it needs so much water to help develop that fruit that I just wasn't there enough to water it. Sometimes you have to water like multiple times a day. So if I could have done that better, I think we would have got a better harvest from it. Allowing the plant and the soil to dry out so much and then coming back with the heavy watering, it stressed out the plant, which caused the fruit to produce quicker, but it also caused the plant to stop flowering, which lowered the overall production and caused blossom end rot. Some people will ask, what was the point of this whole entire thing of growing this tomato from the McDonald's burger? Well, for me, it was just about fun, and it actually helped improve my whole garden because I was so excited to get out there and see how those tomatoes were doing, the ones from the burgers, that I stopped and looked around at the garden. So it basically got me in the garden more. I was able to stay on top of things more, and it improved the overall production for the whole garden. So that was really beneficial. The thing is, gardening doesn't always have to be just about production. Sometimes it's about joy, about experimentation, and just about having fun. So I encourage you guys to try some goofy experiments, have fun in the garden, and just try to enjoy yourself. That's today's video, growers. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. I wanted to send a shout out to one of our 25-month channel member, Rick Spinks. Thanks for being a part of Team Grow. Thanks for having your hand in everything we're doing out here. I also wanted to send a shout out to the King, Tuck, the young king. I'll put a clip of him right here. So we always honor Tuck on this channel because he was such a pivotal part of the whole entire thing. So spam some hearts down low for the young king. I also want to mention that we've got a really cool new product. It's called Team Grow Armor. It's plant armor. You could spray it on your plants and on some of your fruit. It will protect all of them. It's pure kaolin clay, so it's safe to use. It's natural, and it's just really beneficial in the garden. Also, check out the seed starting course. That will be super helpful for you if you're just getting your own seed started at home. It will save you money, it will save you time, and it will just be really beneficial to you overall. Had a blast out here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share this one with your friends if you found it to be a little bit unique. We'll catch you guys in the next one real soon. We out.